Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Saurav, and this is my YouTube channel, Data Science Novice. So, if you are new to my YouTube channel, please do like and subscribe. Your efforts are massively appreciated. So, I'm starting a new lecture series on deep learning with TensorFlow. So, let's talk about what you will be learning from these lecture series. So, first thing you will learn is different type of deep learning algorithms like artificial neural networks, convolutional neural networks, and recurrent neural networks, etc., etc. Note that I also write blog posts for different machine learning algorithm. So for some topic I will refer to my blog, and for some topic I will be explaining you each and everything. And next thing you are going to learn from this lecture series is how to use TensorFlow. So once we learn any algorithm, we try to do a project using that algorithm. And for that we will be using Google Colab. So in a way you will learn how to use Google Colab. So all in all, you will learn two things from this lecture series. First, different types of deep learning algorithm. Second, how to use TensorFlow. And the bonus point, you will get comfortable with Google Colab. So the first lesson is going to be on artificial neural networks. Because it is an entry point for deep learning, and I have already written a blog post explaining each and every part of artificial neural network. So let's jump to my blog and let's walk through it. So here I'm in my blog and the link in the description for this post. So first thing you encounter is this GIF. And in a way this GIF explains the working of neural networks. So once you read my blog, you will really appreciate this GIF image. So first I have made a comparison between biological neurons and artificial neural networks, explaining how they are identical or different from each other. And then I have discussed about how actually it works using simple mathematical operation and different part of perceptron models like what is weights and what is biases and why do we use them. And one thing you will notice that I have used a lots of images to explain the working of neural networks. And this is because neural networks is a mathematically loaded topic. So for a beginner, if you directly try to learn neural networks using maths, you will get discouraged. So I would suggest you to read my blog. Along with this, I have already provided some links to make the things more easy for you. So once you get a clear cut understanding of what is neural network, I would suggest you to go ahead with maths. And you can see that this post is quite long because I have touched each and every part of neural network. So let's jump to the Google Colab and implement the neural network using TensorFlow. So here I am in my Google Drive. So first you have to log in your Google Drive account, and next we have to access the Google Colab, and for that first we have to add it in our Drive account. So click on new, click on more, and then click on connect to more app, and it will open a store like Play Store where you can find different apps for that. So it may take some time to load up. So now type Collaboratory in search bar. So first thing we get is Google Colab. So click on that. So now click on that, and now click on install. So next we have to continue. It is asking for permission. So next we have to give a login account. So in my case, this is my account. Click on that, and we are good to go. Now continue with all that thing. And with this, we have added Google Colab in our Google Drive account, and now we can access it directly from the Google account. So let me show you. So now click on new and on more, and then you can see that we have Google Colab option available to us. So let's fire up a new notebook. So click on new, then click on more, and then click on Google Colab. So one thing to note that all the shortcut of Jupyter Notebook is applicable to the Google Colab. So let's rename this notebook as Building Artificial Neural Networks. So one thing to note is that we don't have to install libraries. All the essential libraries are preloaded in Google Collaboratory. And it also gives you the functionality to install libraries so that one can have the freedom to install a lower version of a library if they want to. So first we have to import all the essential libraries for this project. So we import NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and lastly TensorFlow. And TensorFlow also provides some data for practice. So we are going to import FashionMNIST dataset from TensorFlow. And if you want to read about the dataset, I have provided the Kaggle link in the description. You can check it from there. So to import the dataset, we just have to call from tensorflow.keras.datasets import FashionMNIST. And there are many data set available and we will be exploring them in later part of the course. So the first command you will run on Google Colab will take time since it's connecting to your local machine. So next we are going to save dataset into training set and test set, and for that we are going to do tuple unpacking. So xtrain, ytrain, and then xtest, ytest, and then we call fashionmnist.load to load the dataset. And you can see that while typing, Google Colab is suggesting all these things. And in later part of the video, we'll see a lot of these things happening automatically. And here you can see that the dataset is loading from the source. So this way you download the dataset from TensorFlow. Since it's an image data, we cannot just visualize it like a regular data. So we are going to use Matplot functionality for that. So first we are going to create a figure size for this plot. So calling plt.figure and then fix size. And in this case, we are going to set it 15 by 15. So we are going to plot 36 images all together. And for that, we are going to use for loop. And then we call subplot. So first we are going to run a for loop and setting the range equals to 36 because we are going to plot 36 image, right? And then we call plt.subplots, and then we define the number of columns and number of rows, and then the additional placeholders for the image. So I plus 1 because we know that for loop starts from 0 and this argument starts from 1. So next we call plt.axis and pass argument as off so that the axis does not overlap with the actual image and we can see the image clearly. Next we call plt.imshow and then we pass the image itself. So x underscore train and then we use indexing to show the ith image, and then we reshape this image to 28 by 28 pixel, and next we pass our argument as gray. So we want to show it as a grayscale image because by default matplot library use Viridis color mapping. And then we break out of this loop and then we call plt.show method to plot these images. So now let's run this cell and see how the output looks like. So here we have 36 images from our dataset, and our dataset contains 10 different types of outfits, and you can see the outfit like sandals and t-shirts, etc, etc. And our task is to predict the label for these images. So this way we can visualize the dataset. Now you can play around with this visualization as well. You can change 36, 37, whatever number you want. So the next thing is we have to normalize the data. So the question may arise, why do we want to normalize? So by normalizing all our inputs to a standard scale, we are allowing the network to learn more quickly and adjust the parameter or weights accordingly. And normalizing the image data is quite easy. We simply have to divide the dataset by 255. And that is because the highest pixel value that image can take is 255. So what happens that after this operation, all the pixel value will range between 0 to 1. So we do this both for train data and test data. Next, we have to change the shape of the data. That is, we have to flatten the input to feed it to the neural network. And to see the shape of the data, we just have to call dot shape. So you can see that as of now, it is a three-dimensional data. First number represents the number of image it contains. Next, we have length and breadth of the pixels. And for the time being, just ignore this 60,000. Then we have 2D data. And we have to make it one dimensional because that is how our neural network takes input. So flattening means here, instead of showing the image as 28 by 28 pixel, we represent it into a single row containing 784 elements so that each pixel value can be represented in that row. And to do that, we just have to call dot shape method and we pass -1 and then we pass 28 into 28. So -1 indicates that it will automatically infer the length, and 28 by 28 because this is the image size and we want this much columns so that we can represent the image. So now let's check whether we have transformed the data successfully or not, and we again check the shape of the data. So here you can see that we have 60,000 and 784. So again the data has been changed from 3D to 2D. So if we ignore 60,000, you can say that the data is one dimensional now. So this means that we have flattened the data set. And now we apply the same transformation on the test data set. So let's look what we have done so far. So first we upload the data set and then we visualize it. After that we normalized it and then finally flatten it for the neural network. So now it's time for us to build an artificial neural network using TensorFlow. So the first thing we are going to do is to instantiate the model. So we call model is equals to tf.keras.models.sequential. So we are going to build a sequential model. And a sequential model means a layer by layer model where output of one layer is fed as an input for another layer and so on and so forth. So the next thing we have to do is we have to add an input layer so that we can take inputs. So we call model.add and we pass tf.keras.layers.dense. So here we are adding a dense layer which is nothing but a fully connected layer. So next we have to design this layer, that is how many neurons we want, what kind of activation function we want, etc. etc. So first we pass units, that is number of neurons, and in this case we are going to pass 128 and you can choose any value you want. Next we pass the activation function and it is going to be ReLU, that is rectified linear unit. Next we have to pass the input shape. Make sure to pass the transformed shape and not the original one. And the format is very different. Here we first pass the breadth and then we pass the length. And in this case, the breadth or number of column is 784 and we don't have any length for the image. And next we are going to add dropout layer and it is nothing just a way to stop overfitting. So calling model.add and then we pass tf.keras.layer.dropout and we pass 0.2, which means 20% of the neurons will not be fired up during the training, and this is going to be a random process. So this way we add input layer for our neural network. Next we have to add a hidden layer and the code is going to be very similar to what we just wrote. So instead of writing again what I'm gonna do, I'm going to copy paste the whole code and then we are going to make some changes in this code. So this time this layer does not need the input shape because hidden layer will take the inputs automatically from the previous layer. So we remove this shape parameter. Now we are going to add output layer and we are going to again copy paste the same code, but this time we are not going to use dropout layers because it does not make sense to use dropout layer in output layer. So now we have to change the number of units and it's going to be equal to the number of labels we have. So in this case we are going to have 10 units. And next we want to return the probabilities for the label. So we've passed softmax function for this. So next we have to compile the model. It means that we have to set on what basis we want our model to train and improve. So we call model.compile and we pass few parameters. So first we pass the kind of loss we want to use to calculate the error. So we use sparse cross entropy function and there are many types of function depending upon the type of problem you are dealing with. So now we want to optimize or minimize these losses. And for that we use optimizer. So as of now in most cases the best optimizer we have is Adam optimizer. And next we have to decide a metric so that we know how our model is performing. So we use a sparse categorical accuracy and it has to be passed as a list. And there are many metric one can use. And all these parameters we have used in compiling the model can vary problem to problem. So we have created our first artificial neural network using TensorFlow. And you can make it more complex like adding more hidden layers and so on and so forth. And with the help of TensorFlow functionality, we can see the summary of our model. So we call model.summary. So this gives us few information. So here we can see that model is sequential. Then we have first dense layer and it has 1,840 parameters to train. And next we have dropout layer and then we have again dense layer. So it gives a structural summary of the model. So in total we have to train 1,18,282 parameters. That is this much of the weights we have to train. So now we have built the model, we have compiled the model. Now it's time for us to fit this model on training data. So we call model.fit and we pass the training data and training labels. Next we pass the validation split. So this split the training data further into training and validation during the training process. So we pass zero point 0.3. That means 30% of the data is for validation. And next we pass the epochs. In my case, I am passing 30. That means that I want my model to see the data 30 times. And you can pass whatever number you want to. And last parameter that we have to pass is batch size. So I am going to pass the batch size equals to 32. You should always pass the batch size in the factor of 2. Like 32, 64, 128 and so on and so forth. And I have talked about all these things in my blog as well. So I'm assuming that you have read my blog. So let's press shift enter and start the training of our very own first neural network. So the training has started and you can see the details that which epoch is running, what was the loss at that time, what was the validation loss, and so on and so forth. So the training is going to take some time. So I'm going to fast forward in time. So the training has completed and you can see the details while training. But we are going to analyze the training using pandas and matplot library. So TensorFlow gives us a functionality where it provides the history of the model. So we call model.history.history and we get a dictionary as an output, which is not much readable to us. So we have to make it readable. So what we do, we can change it into a data frame. So we just have to call pd.dataframe and then we have to pass this model.history.history to get a nice view of the data. So now this information looks more representable and we can understand what happened at each epoch. So now let's save it into a variable called loss so that we can visualize it further. So as usual, first let me set the figure size and in this case we are going to set the figure size 10 by 10. And you must be familiar with these line of code if you have been following my video series. And then we call subplot functionality of matplot library so that we can compare the results of training and validation loss side by side. So we call plt.plot and pass the training loss. So if you are confused between the variables, you can always call the loss data frame and check for the variable. Next, we are going to label it as a loss. And on similar line, we are going to plot the validation losses. So we call plt.plot and then we call the data frame that is loss and then we pass the variable we want to plot. So in this case, we want val loss that is validation loss and labeling it as a validation loss so that we don't get confused between training loss and validation loss. Next, we call plt.legend so that we can see these labels on our plots. So next we decide the title for this plot. So in this case, we are going to name it training and validation loss. So let's run this cell and see the output of this code. So we have visualized the history of the model and now based on this graph, we can conclude many things. Like while our training loss kept on decreasing with the time or number of epochs, but this is not the case with validation loss. So in case of validation loss, first it kept on decreasing and after certain epochs, we don't see any improvement. The loss kept on oscillating between zero point 0.3 and 0.35. Similarly, we can plot the training accuracy and the test accuracy, and the code is going to be very similar. So let me directly show you the code. So here is the code and you can see that all the things are similar. It's just we have changed the variable. So let's run this cell. So here one thing you will notice that loss and accuracy plots looks inversely to each other. And logically if loss is less then that means accuracy is greater for that model and vice versa. And we can see that the training and validation have the similar behavior. That is training accuracy kept on increasing but validation accuracy kept on oscillating. And as of now model is doing fine and even it will be doing fine on test set as well because we have already validated the set. So next if we want to make the prediction on test set we have another method for that. So we call model.evaluate and we pass test set and test label and it returns two things. First it returns loss and second it returns accuracy. So we do the tuple unpacking here. So let's run this cell and we can see the accuracy of the model and the loss of this model. And if you want only loss or accuracy, you can always call the variable. In upcoming videos, I will tell you how to know by looking at the graph whether model is overfitting or not. As of now, model is doing well, and even on unseen data, it is doing fine, and we are getting accuracy between 88 to 89. So now I would suggest you to make your own neural networks. Try to play around with hidden layers, try to add more hidden layers, and try to change the number of units and all that thing. So that's all for this video, and if you are new to my YouTube channel, please do like and subscribe and press the bell icon for the future update. See you in the next video. Till then, bye, wear masks, stay safe.